What is going on, guys? Johnny on the track back with another video. A lot going on in my house, so I do have the headphones on tonight. You can see I've got my Christopher Bell number 20 shirt on tonight. Gave that pick out, Christopher Bell. If you watched the show last week, you heard it here first. 11 to 1. Told you it was great value. Did I bet it? No. Why? Because I'm an idiot. And quite frankly, I just, wasn't paying attention. It was on my Action Network. It wasn't on my at JOTT_podcast card on X. So just pretty frustrating. But if you guys watched, I gave the bet out. So hopefully you took that, ran with it, bet it early because the number I believe went down as the weekend or the week and weekend went on. So if you did hit, you hit Christopher Bell at 11 to 1. That's a pretty damn good bet. You can be happy with that. So yeah, coming off a good week, I felt it was either going to be um, Chevy last week or a Bell, a guy like that to steal the show. Reddick was another guy that I told you it was either going to be a Chevy or one of those guys stealing a show. It ended up being Bell. Reddick was right there, and of course, some of the the Chevys were right there as well. So we had that race nailed. Finally good to feel confident and have a solid weekend. Some top tens hit as well, which was nice. Alex Bowman had a good day with that. So yeah, coming off a solid week, and we'll move forward and we'll move on to Phoenix Raceway. Quick note here before we really get into the juice of the bets. I will say I think this is going to be a great race. I really do. They are bringing the option tire along with the prime tire, so I think strategy is going to come into play. I think tire wear is going to come into play. I think there's going to be comers and goers. I think there's going to be guys that can move and pass through the field, unlike a lot of things that we've seen in the past with Phoenix. But I do think we're going to see more passing. I think it's going to be a close race. I think it's going to be a tight race. I still think, a big name will win. That's just kind of how it's been at Phoenix recently, with I guess the exception of a Ross Chastain and maybe even a Briscoe early on. But that was the first year of the next gen. But you watch this thing. It's been your Logano's, your Blaney's. Of course, Christopher Bell won this exact race last year, and he's now looking for three in a row, which we'll talk about. But hot take, I think it's gonna be a great race. I really do. And I'll come back on this show next Tuesday and tell you if I'm wrong, and tell you if that idea was completely far-fetched and stupid of me. But I really think we're going to have a good, tight race that's going to be entertaining from start to finish, quite frankly. So just my 2 cents on what we'll see this weekend at Phoenix. So I do want to talk about Bell. Let's start with him. Does he win three in a row? I think there's a good chance, quite frankly. I think he's that good. I think he's that talented. My concern with betting Bell right now is the number on him. I believe the most up-to-date number, let's get that for you on DraftKings. It's really constantly changing. So it's now 5 to 1. I believe I saw 4.5 to 1 at points. But it's 5 to 1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. He's plus 130 for a top three finish. So I would feel comfortable betting Bell at 6.5 to 1 and higher. That's what I would feel comfortable with. If he gets to 7 to 1, I think you pound that bet. But just right now, based on the number, I don't love it. It's still, you put $50 down, you can win 250. So that's still a good return. For a guy looking to get three, a guy great at short flats. We know how good he is at New Hampshire. He obviously won this Phoenix race last year. So he can do it. He can do it at this level. If there is tire wear, he knows how to manage his stuff, i.e., you saw last week at Coda. So the guy can really do it all. I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna hesitate at the moment to make this bet. I'm hoping that he qualifies, let's say eighth, has a good long run car, maybe odd shift a little back in our favor. And we can get him closer to that 7 to 1 number, maybe 6.5. Is that realistically going to happen? I don't know, to be quite honest with you. But I will say, I think he has a great chance to win three in a row. First time since Larson did it back in his championship year. So that would be really something to see. But my advice would be hold and wait on Bell, unless you like the to one number, go for it. I'm not going to tell you like that's stupid. I'm going to wait. Um, let's go to a guy that I do like this weekend. Money line bet for Chase Briscoe, 12 to 1 right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. Great track record at Phoenix. He's got a win here. He's had a lot of good top 10 finishes. Seems to always have solid speed here. And now he's in a JGR car, right? He was doing that all in SHR in their down years, their final years. And even if you look at his time at SHR, he was always good at short flats. Like he always, Martinsville, he's always pretty competitive. Richmond, he had some good runs. Martinsville, he had a lot of great runs. Those SHR times, like they would be terrible for a majority of the season. Then they would go to a track like New Hampshire, Martinsville, and you would see them run up front all day. So Briscoe, a good track record here. Love the number 12 to 1. I would take it even at 10 to 1. I think Toyota is going to be really good. We obviously know JGR, how good they are at short flats. So I really like this bet. I'm confident in Briscoe. I think he can get a win this weekend. And, all that craziness of the penalty is put behind him and he's locked himself into the playoffs. So Briscoe, solid bet there. I would take that. Chris Buescher is another interesting one. I would say, my favorite Buescher bet is the top 10. My guess is it's probably going to be right around dead even money. Um, like road courses, Buescher has kind of been a top 10 machine at Phoenix right now. And when you look at that, you say top 10 machine, guy does not make a lot of mistakes. He keeps the race car clean, not a lot of damage on the fenders. That's how he gets the top 10s at road courses, and that's how you do it at Phoenix because Phoenix, as we know, the restarts are wild. You have to be aggressive, and I'm going to talk about aggression on another driver that I like this weekend. But Buescher, he's calm behind the wheel. He does not make mistakes, and his car is fast, right? So when you don't make mistakes and you can, avoid a lot of the craziness, that's how you get a top 10. And that's what Buescher's been able to do at road courses and also Phoenix. I like Chris Buescher for a top 10 even money. To me, that's a 1 to 1.5 unit bet. I think you can feel pretty confident about that. And Buescher, didn't have the best speed at Coda, but again, had enough speed, found his way to the front at the end off some good strategy. And Buescher also, if there is tire wear, which you know, how much I don't know, but there's definitely strategy and tires in play, tire strategy in play rather. Buescher's been good at that kind of thing, right? Bristol, he had a win there, the Bristol night race. Look at how good he was at Darlington last year. Should have won that race if for not getting wrecked. And then of course last weekend at Coda as well, right? Tire wear came into play. Buescher at the end, able to pass a lot of cars on fresher tires and get a top 10. So I like Buescher. Money line for for CB is 22, 22 to 1 rather. So, you know, maybe worth a flyer. But I think the top 10 bet is really good, especially if he qualifies like 18th to 20th, and that shifts more towards plus 130. You take that bet all day. Bubba Wallace, I like it for the money line, 45 to 1. Is it no, actually 50 to 1 now on DraftKings Sportsbook. So 50 to 1, way too much value. Way too much value to not take a flyer on Bubba. I have loved the speed I've seen so far from Bubba this early season. I think he needed a new crew chief. I think that pairing is off to a hot start. You never see Bubba start off a season strong. It just does not happen. He might have a good Daytona 500 result, but then he'll, back it up with a few terrible runs. So I think his confidence is I wouldn't say an all-time high, but pretty darn high to start this season. Like I said, love that crew chief and driver pairing. He's had top 10 speed twice in the last four races, and his teammate Tyler Reddick in that 45 has been great here as well, with a couple top fives and top 10s. So I think Toyota's going to be fast. We know what they are able to do on these short flats. I know it's sort of an extension, if you will, of JGR. JGR is that elite tier on short flats, but Tyler Reddick has proven to be able to do it at this level on the short flats. And Bubba Wallace, we've seen he's had good results at Richmond. He's led laps at Martinsville. So, Bubba Wallace at 50 to 1, for a guy that's going to have top 10 car speed, in my opinion, that's a lot of value. That is a lot of value. So I would take a flyer on that all day. Um, let's go to Hocevar. Carson, solid at some of the short flats last season. Richmond, he had a great run, and again, like this is the tire combination that they used at Richmond and they used at North Wilkesboro. And who won that race? Austin Dillon. And Joey Logano was the other guy, and you saw Logano was great at North Wilkesboro, great at Richmond. I'm fading Joey just because you know, I don't know. He's better when he has like weeks to prepare, in my opinion, at Phoenix. I think he'll be fast, but I don't think he'll win this race. I do want to get real quick the number, and I should have written this down, so my apologies. I want to get the numbers on Carson Hocevar last year on some of those short flats. So eighth at Gateway, eighth at Richmond. Um, third at Watkins Glen, which again, like another tire wear, conserve your stuff, which I think this is going to be one of those things. 15th at Phoenix last year. So, some solid results. Again, Gateway and Richmond being those two. Um, so solid at the short flats. Never been great at Phoenix, but did have some decent results in trucks, couple top tens, but never like a top five or anything. But the other reason I like Carson is because Phoenix, in my opinion, favors aggressive drivers. You've got to be aggressive on the restarts, and I think Carson can do that. Now, it might bite him in the you know what if he's a little too aggressive. But I do think overall he can find speed and find spots and in positions rather to gain on some of those restarts. You look at some of those past winners, right? Joey Logano, aggressive driver, won it twice in the next gen era. How about Ross Chastain, another guy, aggressive driver, aggressive on restarts. Blaney, pretty aggressive on restarts. Now I know like we think of Blaney as a clean guy, but in terms of restarts, Blaney is always trying to charge through the field to gain some positions on restarts. That's really just a Penske thing at this point between him and Logano. So I like Carson's confidence right now. I like the track for him, and I like some of the results. With this tire package as well as similar shaped tracks, if you will. Um, and then the last guy I'm gonna look at least probably for a top 10 is Josh Berry. 30 to 1 is the number for his money line. So I would assume he's probably around plus 175, maybe plus two for a top 10 de facto Penske fourth car. Bottom line, we know how dang good they are at this track. Blaney's going to be super fast. I'll probably end up taking Blaney on the final card, but again, like, it's a tough bet to make right now. Ryan Blaney just at 6 to 1. He's another guy. Like if he gets to 7.5, 8, I'll take him all day. If he gets to 7, I'll probably take him. But I just feel like 6 is a little too tough for me to attack that number. But Barry, you know, remember some of the tire wear aspects, like Bristol. He had a great car, had a great race, led some laps there, started on the front row. Um, so again, if we see tire wear come into play, or at least tire strategy, I think Barry is a guy that can conserve his stuff. Good on short tracks. That's where he started, born, bred, if you will. And then again, like just being a de facto Penske fourth car and how good overall Ford has been. If you look at the last like four race, really all the next gen era races, you see Logano, you see Blaney, you see Buescher. Brad has had some good results. McDowell, when he was at front row, had some great runs at Phoenix. So you see a lot of these things, and overall, how good Penske and Ford has been. I like Barry in this spot. I think he's going to have speed. I think this track favors him well, and also this tire combination favors him well. The other guy I wanted to throw out real quick, I mentioned front row with Michael McDowell. Um, this is on Action Network, so I haven't seen any of the top 10 numbers drop yet. Um, but I found Todd Gilliland at 9 to 1 for a top 10. I mean, you got to take that bet. You just have to take that bet. 9 to 1 for, again, an alliance, not a de facto fourth Penske car, but a strong now alliance with Penske. We've already seen Todd Gilliland have speed this year. We've already seen Noah Gragson now have speed this year. Look at him at Coda with a sixth or seventh place finish, right? So we've seen this team already ascend a little bit, and they've got young studs in Gregson, in Zane Smith, and of course in Todd Gilliland. 9-1 for me for a Ford car. That Ford car, that 34, like to me, that there's just so much value on taking Todd Gilliland at 9-1. So I would take it now if you can find it. Again, this is on Action Network, so I wouldn't be surprised if this bet maybe isn't real. I don't know how else to say that. But overall, Todd Gillen 9-1. Ford, strategy again is going to come into play. I know that for a fact. I think that's going to, fall right into a guy like Todd's favor. So that is the card. So the main bets, Briscoe, Bubba, Buescher, Barry, and Hocevar. Money line, still not 100% sure yet. Again, Briscoe, Bubba, definitely the money lines I'm looking at right now. And I think I'm going to wait for maybe a Bell, maybe a manufacturer bet, which might come later in the week. So, how do you find that, Johnny on the Track on Action Network at JOTT_podcast on X? Appreciate you guys watching. Let's have a good week again. And as I always say, well, let me say this. Like this video, goes a long way for the channel. Hit that subscribe button down below. We really appreciate it. And of course, we'll end with let's win some money.